Sukavaha. Who's there? Who's this? Who's the host today? Sukavaha?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Sorry. Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisance. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you all for joining His Holiness Candramauli Swami Maharaj's daily call. Please accept my humble obeisances. Today's verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, and verse 18. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I'll share the verse now, yeah?
Hare Krishna. How to do it?
Can you see my screen, Guru Maharaj?
Wait a minute. Yeah. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Niyachen Visaye Byoshan Manasamburi Saratitaham Manakamabir Apsiptam Te Durayam Diya. Translation. Gradually, as the mind becomes progressively spiritualized, withdraw it from sense activities. And by the intelligence, the senses will be controlled. The mind, too absorbed in material activities, can be engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and become fixed in full transcendental consciousness. Purport. The first process for spiritualizing the mind by mechanical chanting of pranava, omkara, and by control of the breathing system is technically called the mystic or yoga process of pranayama, or fully controlling the breathing air. The ultimate state of this pranayama system is to be fixed in trance, technically called samadhi. But experience has proven that even the samadhi stage also fails to control the materially absorbed mind. For example, the great mystic Vishwamitra Muni, even in the stage of samadhi, became a victim of the senses and cohabited with Menaka. History has already recorded this. The mind, although ceasing to think of sensual activities at present, remembers past sensual activities from the subconscious status and thus disturbs one from 100% engagement in self-realization. Therefore, Sukadeva Goswami recommends the next step of assured policy, namely to fix the mind in the service of the personality of Godhead. Lord Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, also recommends this direct process in the Bhagavad Gita. Thus, the mind being spiritual cleansed one should at once gauge himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord by different devotional activities of hearing and chanting, etc. If performed under proper guidance, that is the surest path of progress, even for the disturbed mind. Gyan Timirandasya Gana Jana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swam Padatikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namne Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nivasesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Satarine. Panchakalpa tarubhischa kripa sindhu evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namaho namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So everybody's mind is disturbed because everybody's chasing after sense gratification. Therefore, the mind remains disturbed. So it's a process of reversal of the uncontrolled mind from many experiences, life after life, of fulfilling one's desire for sense gratification. Remember, as we mentioned, you have the same mind. It's not that every birth you have a different mind. It's the same mind you had in your last birth, the birth before that. From the beginning, when the living entity hits the material world, whatever body they come into, they get a mind. And that mind, the mind is not the brain. Make sure you understand that clearly, because the mind is the seat of the emotions by which the living entity directs their consciousness towards activities in the external environment. And of course, the external environment is the material energy. But then we have the transcendental mind, or the spiritual mind, which is the mind of the soul. So coming back to the spiritual mind and getting rid of the influence of the material mind is the process of bhakti, or directing the mind on the path of self-realization, guided, as it says here, by the proper guidance. And the proper guidance, obviously, is Krishna and the spiritual master, both of them together working to bring a living entity back to its natural constitutional position of eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And to get to that stage, there are many processes. Here, as we mentioned previously in yesterday's class, the process of focusing the mind on the sound vibration of Omkara, which is the impersonal manifestation of the Supreme Lord. And then that's also part of the yoga system. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dhyana, dhyana, and ultimately samadhi. The eightfold mystic system, which Krishna mentions in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, explains it to a small degree, but pretty much rejects it, that in this age no one can perform that, because the mind is too much connected to the external energy. And in order to do that process, one has to leave everything, go to a holy place, and sit in meditation, facing north, sitting on a deer skin in the proper yoga position, meditating on the tip of the nose and following the process very carefully, moving one's concentration more within the super soul, which is situated in the heart. Therefore, it's not recommended in this age. In previous ages, such as the age of Satya Yoga, that was the recommended process for spiritual realization. We have the example of the author of the Ramayana, Valmiki Muni. He meditated for 60,000 years and became fully self-realized. And then that was powerful enough that he could actually write the whole story of the life of Sri Ram. And of course, there are many other examples in that age, and people were highly qualified. In this age, it's not possible. In this age, we ask people to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, refrain from some basic sinful activities, illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. And even that's too difficult. It's like asking too much for people in this age. How can I spend so much time in spiritual practice? I got so many responsibilities in this world, and then there's always more coming. But people are not inclined to spiritual life in this age. It's just the way it is, because the age is so much permeated with sense desire and economic advancement. So when it comes to practicing spiritual life, people make a great effort to put a little time aside, and they find that too difficult. And many times they either give it up or they perform it wrongly. And therefore, we have these discussions in order to get everyone back to the right understanding. And here it's mentioned that focusing the mind, and this is the main thing. The mind is the center of the yoga process. In any form of yoga, the mind becomes foremost. Even of course, in Bhakti yoga too. That is engaging the mind in spiritual activities. Not only spiritual activities, but those spiritual activities that are recommended and authorized by the spiritual master and Krishna, according to a person's situation in the material world and based on their proclivities to practice devotional service. There's so few essential things that are there for everyone, and that is chanting the holy names of the Lord. But we also must take up a process of using our senses for performing activities for the benefit of the Supreme Lord. In other words, engaging the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the different senses in the service of the Lord. Otherwise, these things will be engaged into material activities. And then there will be no progress in spiritual life. So therefore, it's pretty much comes down to two things: chanting the holy name and engaging in practical devotional activities. We have energy, we have intelligence, we have senses, we have mind. We have to use them. If we don't use them for Krishna, we'll use them for the material energy. They're meant for Krishna because Krishna is called Rishikesh. He is the master of the senses. The senses are actually under his, what we say, control, in the sense that sensual power and sensual ability is coming from the energy that Krishna supplies. And even in the material sense, whatever success or whatever abilities our senses and mind may have is also coming from Krishna. Krishna facilitates that under the three modes of material nature according to a person's desire and ability to execute that desire. But for the transcendentalists, those who are wanting to make a solution to the goal of life, they must engage their mind and senses in practical service to the Supreme Lord. So we have the example of Maharaj Ambarish, and it's mentioned in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. He used his eyes to see the beautiful form of the deity. He used his nose to smell the wonderful flowers and sandalwood and tulsi leaves offered to the Lord. He used his hands to massage the bodies of the devotees. He used his legs to walk to the temple. He used his tongue to taste the nice Krishna prasadam offered to the Lord. He used his ears to hear the transcendental glorification of the Lord. All his senses, mind, and everything were engaged. So he is considered to be one of the best examples for a complete absorption of all the mind and senses in the service of the Lord. So because everything belongs to Krishna anyway, whatever we have in this material world is simply given to us by Krishna so we can maintain ourselves and practice devotional service. It's not meant for enjoyment. Enjoyment is only on the platform of devotion to Krishna. Material life doesn't provide any enjoyment, and whatever enjoyment we attempt to achieve in material life comes along with suffering, because everything material is of the nature of duality. Just like if you have a coin, the coin has two sides, a head and a tail, you might say. The sides are opposite. If you have a coin with the same side, the same two sides, it's an artificial coin. It's not real. Everything in the material world has an opposite. And so when we seek out happiness in material life, we also can expect to get some suffering along with that happiness. That's just the way it is. It's built in, it's part of the material energy. And so we always talk about happiness and distress as being two opposites, but they come together in every form, especially when one tries to enjoy it. Because this material world is not meant for our enjoyment, it's meant for Krishna's enjoyment. He produced it, he arranged it, he set it up, and it's meant for his enjoyment in the sense that he gives us a chance to use the objects in this material world for his service. And that connecting with these objects and using them for his service brings us to the platform of devotional service. And when it becomes perfect, then that is self-realization or God realization. So therefore, one should see everything in relationship to Krishna. Krishna says, one who sees me and everything in me, I am never lost, and he is never lost to me. That's actually seeing. When we see separate, we're seeing an illusion. There's nothing separate. The source is not seen, but the essence of the source is the energy it produces. And then we understand by the energy there is a source also. No energy or no phenomenal creation can exist without someone or some intelligent being actually putting it into motion. Nowhere do you see anything that is functioning simply by its own volition. It's always given initiation by a source and also direction by that same source. But Krishna has created this material world through the three modes of material nature to get us out of this material world by using everything in his service. And then when one does that, then one can also enjoy those activities they perform. That enjoyment is not the enjoyment of the objects itself, but it's the enjoyment that one experiences when they connect those objects with Krishna. It's the enjoyment of relationship. We also may find happiness in the object itself, but that's also part of connecting it with the source. When we try to connect these same objects to something in the external environment, we're actually creating a type of duality, and that is some separation from its the actual meaning. That's why you can see in the material world, everyone is always struggling. They're struggling to try to do something that is not possible. It's like you're just like trying to take a square peg and put it into a round hole. It doesn't fit. It's meant to go into a square hole, not a round hole. So we're meant to serve and love the Lord. That is our constitutional position. Anything less than that simply causes us to waste time and energy trying to find some kind of ephemeral happiness in this material world. So the process of bhakti is very sweet. It's not arduous. The yogis in previous ages, hey, we talk here is mentioned about Vishwamitra Muni. He was powerful. He wanted to become a perfect Brahmana. And he was determined. He was a perfect Kshatriya, but he was defeated by Vashishta Muni, who was a perfect Brahmana. Then he realized that Brahma Tejas, or Brahminical power, is greater than Kshatriya Tejas, or administrative power. And so he moved himself away. He was he was a king, and he had great armies. But being defeated by Vashishta Muni, that story is really interesting. He came to Vashishta Muni, and Vashishta Muni welcomed him and his soldiers into the ashram. And he honored the king, Vishwamitra Muni, so nicely. And he created a feast for the entire army. He had a particular cow, which was a Sarabi cow, and he would chant mantras and petition her, and out of her udder, all of these foodstuffs would be supplied in profuse amount to all of the soldiers. So they had a wonderful experience, and everyone was just glorifying Vishishta Muni. But Vishwamitra Muni became a little envious. He started to think, well, this cow, is the best of all cows, and I am the king. She should belong to me. And so he wanted the Sarabi cow that Vishishta Muni had. Vishishta said, she is everything. She is there for my worship. Everything I do is based on her. I cannot even consider thinking about giving her up. I'm sorry, I cannot honor your request. This angered Vishwamitra Muni, so he tried to take the cow by force. And then Vishishta commanded the cow to respond. And out of the udder of the cow, a whole fierce army of soldiers manifested and destroyed the entire army of Vishwamitra Muni. He was left with nothing. When he saw the power of Vishishta Muni, Vishwamitra Muni was devastated, and he was thinking, yes, I want to become a Brahmana. So he gave up his position and started to meditate. And his meditation was so severe, he would sit in ice cold water up to his neck in the wintertime and meditate. And in the summertime, he would sit in the middle of a hot sun with 7 fires on all sides. And he wanted to perform these great austerities, trying to be dhira, or undisturbed by the elements. But Indra, noticing what Vishwamitra Muni was doing, decided to destroy his austerity. Because Indra is thinking, if he becomes so powerful through these austerities, he's going to take our position in the heavenly planets. So Indra used his ultimate weapon, Menaka. She was a society girl, the best in his entourage of women. And she came. And while he was performing his meditation, the tinkling of her ankle bells really attracted Vishwamitra Muni, as it says here. He was absorbed. But then, even in the stage of samadhi, absorption, his senses became attracted, and he had a relationship with Menaka. And that, of course, everyone knows the story. That's Sukuntala. Sakuntala was born, and that's the famous story. It's even a novel now. In India, you can buy the book, The Life of Sakuntala. She was the daughter of Vishwamitra Muni and Menaka. But then, after being in that ashram for a little while, he thought, wow, this is not what I want. So he left and then went back to his austerities again. And this time he was really determined that any kind of disturbance will come, then I will destroy that disturbance. So again, Indra sent another society girl. Her name was Ramba. And Ramba came, and she was tinkling her ankle bells. And this time Vishwamitra Muni became angry. And he waxed anger, and by the power of his meditation, he shot fire from between his eyes and burned her. And she lost her life, burned her to a pile of ashes. And as soon as he did that, he fell down. Because attraction and aversion is the 2 sides of the same coin. We cannot become Krishna consciousness unless we come to the middle road, and that is no attraction and no aversion to the material energy, but see the material energy as simply Krishna's energy to be used in Krishna's service. Any attachment or aversion to objects that cause attachment is another side of attachment. And one has to very carefully see things in relationship to the reality, see everything in relationship to Krishna, and then use what is usable. It's not that you can use everything in this world in Krishna's service. Use whatever Krishna allows you to use for his service. And we have our mind, we have our intelligence, we have our resources, we have our very life. It's mentioned, there's one verse that mentions these four things. Give your life to Krishna. If you can't do that, then give your resources to Krishna. If you can't do that, at least give your intelligence to Krishna. If you can't do that, give your words to Krishna. It's somewhat concessionary, but for devotees, we don't accept the role of concessionary. We want to give everything to Krishna because everything belongs to Krishna. And we belong to Krishna. We don't belong to this material world. We're here because of our desire to enjoy separately from the Lord. We'll never know how that ever happened. Prabhupada talks about that. And when people ask, why do we come here? Prabhupada says, only when you get back to the spiritual world, then you'll know everything past, present, and future. You can't understand it now. But it's called misuse of our independence. We have independence as a soul. The soul has independence because Krishna has full independence. The soul is part of Krishna. It's called Swarat. Krishna is fully Swarat, and the living entity is partially Swarat. So we have independence, and yet that independence exists even in the spiritual world. Now, when we come to the material world, we misuse that independence by trying to, again, make a plan for being happy in this material world. But all our plans will be frustrated by the time element. Even though we may gain something temporarily, it'll also be destroyed in time. So one who's actually intelligent and knows their best interest, as the verse says, they don't try to make any permanent solution in this material world. They engage in devotional service, focusing their intention on ultimately the real world, the spiritual world, where life is eternal, full of knowledge and unlimited happiness in relationship to Krishna. So, and that requires, to get to that stage, we have to very carefully direct the mind towards the object of devotional service. So, using one's abilities, times, energies, whatever Krishna has given you, and it's a fact. Whatever you use in Krishna's service, Krishna will give you more. If you use your resources in Krishna's service, he'll give you more. If you use your intelligence in Krishna's service, he gives you more. If you use your time in Krishna's service, you'll find that you'll have time for so many things. It's all based on the fact that Krishna is the provider, and he's also the person who gives you the ability to perform the activities in devotional service. As he says in the Bhagavad Gita, I am the ability in all living entities. All abilities come from me. And that's a fact. And he directs whatever you want, either material or spiritually, and then you will receive the ability, either material or spiritually, according to your desire. Krishna is that source. Yeyatam mam prapadyante tamstataiva bhajami aham. He says, as you approach me, I reward you accordingly. So he is giving everything, and everything belongs to him. So, and we belong to him. We cannot be happy separated from him. It's not possible. We can act like we're happy, and we can make believe, we create a make-believe world of illusion that everything is all right. But that whole illusion will be smashed by the time element. Everything is not all right as long as we continue in that idea that we can be happy separate from Krishna. And using the mind here is the center of the spiritual activity. Keep your mind focused on the spiritual element, on devotional service. Always be engaged in devotional service. Krishna says, he gives the formula for those who live in this material world. Yat karosi yaranasi yadadosi, yat jahosi dadasi, yat tapasi tukunteya, tad kurushum madarpanam. All that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities you may perform Do it as a sacrifice for me. So he's recommended. Krishna is not greedy. He's not trying to gain something by this. He's simply doing it, simply knowing that we're suffering in this material world, and he doesn't want to see us suffer because he loves us, and therefore he wants to bring us back to where we belong. And therefore he gives us the formula through him, either directly or through the spiritual master. And if we don't learn, then we have to get kicked by the material energy, and then we get the message in a less direct way through the sufferings that come by material energy. Okay, so we can stop there and open it up for questions.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Another very, very important informations given by you. There are so many. I'm sure everyone will have some questions to ask how to practice our devotional services. Rishabh Prabhu has already raised his hands. Dharmavatsala Prabhu or Rishabh Prabhu, whoever is there, can you?
They're both there.
Okay. You can unmute yourself and ask questions.
Hare Krishna, this is Prabhupada, this is Prabhupada. Do you hear us?
Yes, Prabhuji, we can hear you.
Wow, there's so many points, but I will try to do one question at a time. Regarding this last point, Maharaj is saying that when we use something for Krishna service, he gives us more of it. So I was questioning, so if Krishna doesn't send us new devotees, does that mean that we are still not using it fully for his service? And that's why he's not sending us new people? And that we are not pure enough?
He's always sending. Are you able to receive? The more we are qualified to receive, the more he will send. He won't send someone who is sincere, and then at the same time that person doesn't get. So the more we become qualified to receive new people, in other words, we can take them and engage them nicely, educate them in Krishna consciousness, you'll have no time for anything except receiving people. Krishna will give you that, yeah. But he wants to see how sincere and how determined you are to do that service, how qualified you are.
So you said
sometimes he sends someone who is not so sincere, when the idea for us is to make that person sincere.
So what you said, what are the categories of being qualified to have education, we just kind of gives us a little glimpse of it.
Well, the qualification is your sincerity. Are you able to bring people in people are different. People may be brought in slightly different. But it's all about you, how seriously you're practicing Krishna consciousness. Then you have something to give. Purity is the force. The more pure you are, the more you can affect others. You can also, even in a less pure state, help others. But that comes by simply repeating the instructions of the spiritual master without changing anything. And having faith in those instructions at the same time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a good question. Very powerful point, Guru Maharaj. You said that have a full faith in spiritual master and follow exactly what spiritual master says without changing any instructions, isn't it?
Yeah, let's have the devotees turn on their cameras.
Yeah, please turn on your camera so that Maharaj can have your darshan. We've got 24 people. Come on, please. We have got still we've got quite a few people put on cameras. If you have any questions, please ask or type it in the chat and I can read it for you. Prabhuji, do you still have another question? No?
Yes, I do. So regarding this,
Is there any questions in the chat?
Not yet, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, all right, just wait, Rashad, and see if anyone else has got questions.
Okay. Yeah, Ekta Mataji, do you have a question?
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. O Krishna Prabhupada. Maharaj, you spoke about attachment and aversion. And I find that it's easy to understand like how to not get attached to things. But for me, especially, like I find that naturally leads to just being averse rather than being neutral or equipoised. So I wondered whether you could say something more about how we can avoid aversion and just be more neutral to the material energy.
Well, there's another thing. There's it's a principle given by Sanatana Goswami, which says one should accept things that are favorable for devotional service, and one should reject things that are unfavorable. So learning what is favorable for your devotional service and rejecting those that are unfavorable is not a form of aversion. It's just not allowing things that are not necessary to impede your devotional progress, such as wrong association. That's just an example. So aversion means like, well, you know, like, well, say when someone is I can use some examples. Brahmacharis usually do this really good, but everyone has this sometimes aversion where they're averse to all women. They think all women are Maya. That's a kind of aversion. But it's not that all women are Maya. All women are actually gopis who belong to Krishna for Krishna's pleasure. If they see them in that way, rather than seeing them as just, you know, examples of Maya, then that takes them to the platform of knowledge rather than the platform of material aversion. All right, we have to eat prasadam. So if someone who is not qualified to cook, say a non-devotee, wants to give us prasadam, we're not averse to eating prasadam, but we're averse to taking things that will cause our devotional service to be affected. So the mind becomes disturbed when we take food offered by non-devotees, especially grains. So these are examples. So one should be, what we say, clear on what to accept and what not to accept. And if you work in that way, know what's favorable, will know what's unfavorable. And even if you slip a little bit, get back up. But the thing is, we have to know what is favorable and what's not unfavorable. That's not aversion, that's just common sense. Aversion means to label something, just like Vishwamitra Muni. He said, I'm not going to be attracted, and if anything tries to destroy me, I'm going to destroy it. So he was into the mood of aversion like that. Instead of seeing the girl, the thing is, he wasn't on the platform of bhakti. He was performing Astanga yoga. And therefore, without that connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the yoga process, he couldn't remain free from dualities. So we have to come to that point of becoming attracted to Krishna. And then we see what is favorable to develop that attraction and attachment and what is unfavorable, like that. And it becomes a feature of knowledge, not a feature of aversion.
That help, Ekta Mataji.
Does that help a little?
Yes, thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, good. I have one devotee here who's with me, and he has a question. So I'll repeat his question.
Hare Krishna.
Mhm.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Maharaj, all glories to the Vaishnava. My question is, like you tell us, in the spiritual world, we are also independent. That's independent for us, we souls exist in spiritual world.
Yeah,
Can you say that?
he's asking, he's coming on something I said, that in the spiritual world we have independence. Yeah, that's true. But that independence is not misused for some personal interest. In the spiritual world, everyone is connected with Krishna for Krishna's pleasure, and everyone is enjoying being with Krishna and serving him in different ways. But still, that independent nature is there. So if the soul somehow or other thinks that why should Krishna be the center? I know he's really great, but I'm also great. Well, let me be the center. And then that mindset causes one to fall to the material world. So that independence is there, because independence has to be for both Krishna and the living entities, because there's no question of love if there's not independence, because love is based on choice. Love is not forced. Krishna can force you, but he doesn't, because he allows you to choose, but he encourages you in the right way. Although he doesn't interfere with your independence, he does everything for you to make the right choices. But ultimately, it's up to you to make the right choices. So that independence is always there in the liberated stage, in the conditioned stage. It's always there, that independence. But we want to surrender our false sense of independence and accept real independence. That real independence is the consciousness on how best to serve Krishna. That's all. We have so many varieties of ways that we can serve Krishna. So that's our independence. Let us choose that way. That will be the best way we can serve Krishna. So that's real independence. Okay. Okay.
Thank you. I think Brahmavatsal Das Prabhu has got a question. You want to unmute Prabhuji? Oh, Sonal Mataji, do you want to unmute yourself, please?
Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances to all the devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, I have this question, follow-up question regarding the spiritual world. It says in the Bhagavad Gita that once we go back to the spiritual world, there is no question of falling down. So then where does this independence, if we misuse the independence in spiritual world, we can still fall down, is it right?
Well, if you stick your hand in the fire, what happens?
You burn.
Okay, so that's an experience, right?
Yes.
Will you do it again?
No.
Okay,
Okay, got it.
you got it.
Got
So
it. Yes.
when you're back there, you remember
Okay.
you're sticking your hand in the material world and what happened.
Yes. Okay. Yes. This, because I had this question since last 1 week, and thank you. This is very clear. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you for asking. That's an important question. Once burned, twice shy.
Dear devotees, any more questions or any more comments or realization? Please raise your hand.
We have Rishab with another.
Yeah,
question.
Rishabh Prabhu has one.
Hi Krishna, thank you very much. I wanted to ask about the point of nothing is separate from Krishna and using all our senses in Krishna's service. So Ambarish Maharaj, he gave an example of how to use our service and also the process of seeing everything connected to Krishna by Jnana Chakshu, by reading Bhagavad Gita and meditating on the points of where Krishna is telling us where his all his energies is pervading. So is this point of practicing, Maharaj, that we just need to kind of constantly practice seeing Krishna everywhere, constantly practicing our senses to engage, or is something else in this regard?
Prabhupada was asked that question. He gave a nice example. And he took his glasses. Prabhupada was wearing glasses. He took them off. He held them up in the air. He said to the assembly of devotees, when you see these glasses, what do you think? And the response was, we think they're your glasses, Srila Prabhupada. Yes, Prabhupada said, correct. So everything you see, you should connect it with Krishna, because everything is connected with Krishna. You connect the object with the owner. But, the people in this material world claim ownership falsely. I own this house, I own this car, I own this kingdom, I own this, refrigerator. in Janasa Moham Yamaham Mameti, we have this idea that, I'm the center. If you put yourself in the center, then whatever you connect with, you see it in connection to yourself. Take yourself out of the center and put Krishna in the center, and you see everything connected to Krishna, including yourself. You have to practice that, yeah. Practice that when the easiest way to start with is do it with nature. Because nobody in this material world can create nature. Nature is given to us by God. It's God's arrangement for the beautification of the material world. The seas, the oceans, the land, the trees, the plants, the islands, everything is all, it's not man-made, obviously. So we, as devotees, we can understand it's coming ultimately from God. It's God's energy. And then if you break it down much farther, then what are all of these ingredients that we make into different things, such as houses, computers, cars, clothes? What are the elements that make up these things? They're the basic elements that make up everything in material energy. So ultimately, we are what is called secondary creators. We take what Krishna gives us in the form of the material energy and reformulate it into all of these amenities that we use to enjoy or to live in this material world. But that doesn't make it ours. It's just like if I say to you, okay, you build me a house, and here's the tools, here is the wood, and here's the glass, the steel, and here's the book on how to do it. And then you build a house and you say it's your house. No, I asked you to do it for me, and now you're claiming it's yours. I gave you all the ingredients to do it. So in the same way, Krishna is giving us the intelligence, and he's also giving us the ingredients, how to do things in this material world. He says, from me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Jahas sarvasya disani visto matat smirta jnanam apohanam chat. If you want knowledge, I give it to you. You want forgetfulness, it comes from me. If you want to, you want remembrance, that's also coming from me. He gives everything. So then we're claiming when we create something from the ingredients and the intelligence he gives us, then we think it's mine. But we think it's my intelligence, but still the ingredients didn't come from you. You make a brick, but what is the brick made out of? It's made out of earth and water placed in fire to make it, solid. It's all Krishna's energy. Then you make a house with that brick, and then you claim it's my house. It's Krishna's house. You're just living in it. He allows you to have it.
Wow, that's amazing. Especially like so many things to offer to Krishna.
Everything.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for asking that question. Any other questions? Any devotees? Please type. There's nothing in the chat so far. Oh, yes. There is a question in the chat, Gurmaj, from Rasavilasini Radha Mataji. Hare Krishna Maharaj and everyone, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Maharaj, if we talk about 9 steps of process like Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, remembering, etc., can we focus on just one of these steps? Or do we need to go through all 9 steps? For example, if someone enjoys listening, can they reach back to Godhead just by hearing?
Well, to answer your last part, yes, they can. That was the example of Maharaj Parikshit. He became self-realized simply by hearing from Sukadev Goswami. He focused his hearing fully on Sukadev Goswami's narration of Bhagavatam for 7 days. That's what these classes are covering, that episode. Yes, but yes, you can also choose one of the 9 processes. But Prabhupada also clarifies that each of the other 8 processes must be accompanied by chanting Hare Krishna. That is not optional. You have to include that. I have an incident in my experience where there was one place. I was in Germany, and I was going to one temple in Germany, and the temple president called me in. He said, Maharaj, I have a problem. I have this nice pujari. She's very qualified. She comes every day to dress the deities. She's always on time, and she dresses so nicely. But she doesn't chant. And I've tried to encourage her to chant, but she says that each of the 9 processes are there. I'm focusing on Archana. So I said, well, she's going to have to chant, because even though she's becoming good at Archana, still Prabhupada and the Acharyas give us the formula that the holy name is the Yuga Dharma, the means for self-realization. And one can focus on one of the 9 processes, but they must include the chanting of the holy name. So I said to him, don't force her, but encourage her. And if she doesn't, she won't last. So I left, and after a few months I returned, and then I asked, and he said yes, and she actually left. I didn't force her, tried to encourage her, she wouldn't chant. So Krishna kicked her out. Krishna says, if you don't follow the instructions of my spiritual master, how can you serve me? It's not service to me, it's service to your own false ego. So yeah, you can choose any of the 9 processes. Of course, becoming a friend to Krishna and surrendering everything, those 2 are exclusive. They're on the platform of Raganuga Bhakti. So we may not be able to jump up to that immediately. You can gradually come to that stage. But yeah, the other 7 processes we can practice, especially chanting, hearing, worshiping, like that.
Does that help, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Any other questions? Guru Maharaj, I can't see any hands raised, but in connection to that question,
What?
is it okay to ask one question?
Rasa, which one do you want to focus on?
Maharaj, I like to dance.
Dancing? Well, in order to have dancing, you have to have somebody who's singing. So dancing is an expression of chanting. Okay. If you dance without chanting, they'll think something's wrong. Of course, you should, chanting and dancing go together. Dancing is not one of the 9 processes, but it's an expression of the process of chanting. It's connected with chanting.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
Mhm. That's why you got that name, Rasa Vilasini Radha. It means one who enjoys pleasure by performing the rasa dance.
All glories to you, Maharaj. Krishna.
Beautiful name. Okay, Guru Maharaj, if I can just clarify one thing on that topic, please.
Yes.
So, as Mataji asked, we cannot focus on one thing apart from we need to include chanting. But if we are chanting, we can focus on one of the 9 processes along with chanting, right?
Yeah.
We don't need to do all 9.
No, but you'll find that Prabhupada's given us a variety of activities which cover many of the 9 processes. But if you want to perfect one of them, you can do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? There's nothing in the chat so far. Okay, let me just quickly check. Okay. Oh, Sri Devi Mataji, do you want to?
Jai Sri Devi.
Please accept my most humble obeisances, Guru Maharaj. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. On this point of the 9 processes of bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, and so on, if we, of course, are given an opportunity to engage in all these different processes in different ways, but for us to perfect our devotional service, does it mean we must perfect one of those forms of bhakti?
No.
Okay.
Perfect the principle of bhakti by combining many of them into your devotional life. We do that. But usually we focus a lot of our attention, time, and energy. We have to on the holy name, because the holy name is the Yuga Dharma and the means for self-realization, the means for expanding the Krishna conscious movement worldwide. The holy name is the essence of everything. The holy name is the process. Lord Chaitanya has given us the process, which is the holy name itself. It's the essence of all of the bhakti processes. He's put emphasis on chanting and dancing as the means by which we practice Krishna consciousness very nicely and joyfully in this age. And this is the way to inspire others. It's the way to purify the whole world. The whole movement started simply by Prabhupada encouraging the devotees to go out on Harinam. The whole movement grew because of Harinam. The whole movement slowed down when we slowed down on Harinam. The whole movement again became revived when Ayendra revived Harinam through the 24-hour kirtan in Vrindavan, which spread throughout the world. And everyone again jumped back onto the kirtan mood again. It went down for many years during the 1980s. And only when Iyengar brought it back in the end of the 1980s, then it started to blossom, but now it's again flourishing, the holy name. So we see we don't want that dip to happen again. So devotees are focusing now on doing a lot of Harinam, chanting, 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 chanting. That's individual development, that's extended development, it's worldwide purification. Everything is there in the holy name. Chant, chant, chant. If you can't do anything, just chant Hare Krishna. And you're doing everything.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. I have one more question, but I'll wait.
Thank you, Mataji. Rishabh Prabhu, please go ahead.
I have a question regarding the mind. You said a few points about material mind, the spiritual mind. So you said that we are now influenced by the material mind, but we underneath the material mind, we have a spiritual mind. So does this material mind disappears and then the spiritual minds pop up? We cannot hear it currently. And what is the difference? Like spiritual mind cannot disconnect from Krishna in any moment. So if you can maybe enlighten us.
Everything in material is superficial, even material mind. It's just a covering over the spiritual mind. That's all it is. Spiritual mind is the mind, but we've directed that same mind towards the material energy. And then we develop these coverings, which we call the material mind. It's only one mind, which is spiritual, but you can cover it with something different. That's the material energy. Just like we're covered by this body in this material world. We are pure spiritual souls. We have nothing to do with this body or this world, but because we identify with it, we reinforce that energy, which is Krishna's external energy, and we create all of these false ideas of reality. Prabhupada said the whole material world is a dream. It's just a dream. You're dreaming you're a woman, you're dreaming you're Rishabh from Croatia.
Daydream.
Yeah, sometimes it's a nightmare, but it's...
Yeah, it's like a continuous daydream. Like
yeah, these Jeev Jago, Gaura Chandra Bhole, Kota Nidra Jayo Maya, Pisachira Kole. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Apply the alarm clock. Wake up. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says you're sleeping on the witch called Maya. She's sucking out your blood. And you're thinking, oh, so nice.
oh. Gross. Gross. And about the mind and the brain, you said that not to take the mind as a brain. Can you just a little elaborate on it?
The mind is the source of all emotions and desires. The brain is a machine by which these emotions and desires are released externally and accepted internally. That's all.
Okay.
I gave the example yesterday. Quite often, it's the computer. The computer is like the brain, and all the information inside it is like the mind. Without the brain, you can't get to that information or add more information to it. So it's a machine. The mind is, the whole body is a machine, and the brain is just one of the machine parts. That's all.
Like a software. Mind is a software and brain is a hardware.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for asking that question. That was my question as well. Hare Krishna. Shilpesh Prabhu had raised the hand. Shilpesh Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. No, that was my question as well, so it's been answered.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Sri Devi, you have another one?
Yeah.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, please, if I may. During this process of bhakti, as we engage in devotional service, as we strive to purify as well as perform that devotional service nicely, does the purification automatically happen, or do we need to strive for more purification separately?
Let's see. I'm trying to think. Prabhupada's answer was really good for that one. I'm trying to think what he said. It's a moment-to-moment effort to keep your consciousness connected to the spiritual energy in the beginning. But as you become more adept at doing that, it becomes more natural to do it. It's just like learning to play music. You might have to learn to play chords at the beginning until you get to the point where you can actually play melodies. Then it becomes more natural. You can create your own melodies after a while. You can pick up melodies easy. But the mechanical part is in the beginning as we get connected to it. But if we're not in it, then we'll have to make sure we keep ourselves in it by becoming conscious of what we're doing and how we're doing every moment. But those who are fixed in Krishna consciousness, it's not like that. They're just moving from one thing to another automatically. It becomes natural. But to get to the stage of being natural, then we have to practice the rules and regulations and become very much conscious of everything we do and how we do it. So becoming conscious is one thing, but developing that consciousness is another thing. So when it becomes natural, then everything becomes easy or natural. Natural means easy or routine, in line with. But before then, but don't think that you're so advanced that you can't make a conscious effort to stay connected to Krishna. Because if we get a little lax and think we're okay, then Maya will dictate something to us just to deviate our consciousness away. Know your weaknesses, know your strengths. Feed your strengths and reject your weaknesses. You can outside, yeah. Okay.
Thank you,
Yes,
Mataji.
Guru Maharaj. Very nice, very nice. That every moment we must be trying to connect with the spiritual energy until it becomes natural to connect with the spiritual energy. Okay, thank you very much.
If you looked at Srila Prabhupada, he was like a swan just moving gracefully through the world. But for him, it was natural because he was always connected to the spiritual energy automatically. We have to become like that.
Very nice. Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
you, Guru Maharaj. There is a question on the chat, Guru Maharaj, from Bhaktin Bhavani. Hare Krishna, Dandvat Pranams. Why are even some devotees avoid to see their good friends and superiors when they are ill or leaving the body? Do you think it is impersonalism to say I stay home and chant or make flower garland when other devotees are suffering and could be visited or attended to?
Who asked the question?
Bhaktin Bhavani.
If a devotee actually cares about others, especially other devotees, so when the devotee hears that someone is sick, someone if they can do something, they want to do something. It's just natural. To be oblivious to this is really not. It's just neophyte devotee who doesn't care about others except themselves.
So it's not, she's asking, is it impersonalism? It's not impersonalism, it is neophyte.
It's not impersonalism, but it's worse. It's not even human to be like that.
Okay. True. I hope that helps, Bhaktin Bhavani, Mataji. There's another question in the chat, Guru Maharaj, from Dheeraj Prabhu. Can we chant japa together? Can you ask? Okay, yeah.
Right now?
No, I think this is the question he's asking, but we can chant afterwards if you time, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, right now I have things going on around me that I have to attend to. So yeah, but yeah, chant with other devotees whenever you can. They have some online chanting programs. I know the devotees from Charlotte, North Carolina have a regular one every day. There are others, there's japa programs everywhere. If you can go to the temple, that's even better. I would answer best if you can chant with other devotees, and you get the strength and the enthusiasm, and the mind becomes easier to control. Okay, I have to go. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you. Thank you for today's class, Guru Maharaj. And thank you, dear devotees, for attending it and participating
Krishna.
in the session.
You all tomorrow.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Bol.
Hare Bol. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna. All obeisances to you, Maharaj. Excellent class. Sorry, I couldn't start the video today. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Holiness Candramauli Swami Maharaj ki jai.
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 Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mataji.
Mataji. Thank you to all the wonderful devotees. Hare Krishna. My humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.